To be 2 capital G here, what you guys are currently looking at is the deck that I said yesterday might have just broke the entire meta, at least for the NAWCQ and obviously the European Championship season. Two colossal sized events that are coming up pretty much in back-to-back weeks, and then you got Thomas Rose throwing a giant monkey wrench in everybody's plans. It was supposed to be the, couple of weeks of Sky Striker Trickstars just dominating everybody, and then this old chap just comes out of nowhere and he absolutely dominates the fuck out of that deck by running this weird Burning Abyss Monster Mash Sekka's Light build with Gallis and Rescue Cat and just all these weird monsters. You got Elephant in the main deck and Savaris, which I know a lot of people probably had to read. This was posted originally on the channel NCG Yu-Gi-Oh! So obviously check them guys out. They're a smaller Yu-Gi-Tuber, but I assume that they're probably looking to grow. I'll have the link in the description of this video. I always advise that you guys watch the video, the original one, so that you can kind of get the explanations and kind of get it from the horse's mouth. But a lot of people seem excited about this, and I knew that if I posted it, it would get out to as many people as possible. Also, I said in yesterday's video that I thought he ran a 60 card build, and I know some people were probably trying to create this build of Burning Abyss, but it was 100% not 60 cards. So I definitely wanted to clear that up. He was in fact running 40, and it's a crazy theory, right? Because when you think of these Sekka Light builds, I mean, I guess Burning Abyss is one of the decks that I think of. I tend to think of like Mermill, because Mermill don't really use that many spells and traps. A lot of the cards like Mermill, Abyss Spear, people don't even really run those anymore. Obviously, Super Heavy Samurai, but Burning Abyss is a deck that really can operate off of not really using any trap cards or spells, despite the fact that Burning Abyss have excellent trap cards like Fire Lake. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you can kind of special summon all of the monsters at will, and when you don't run any spells and traps, you never are at you're never at the mercy of things like the Trickstar Light stage, which is obviously such a big deal in this format. Now, he said that he did design this deck essentially to be able to dominate the Trickstar Sky Striker match, and he pretty much accomplished that. Rescue Cat is a card that I would never have I never would have thought about actually using this in Burning Abyss, but it's really interesting, right? So he said Rescue Cat was amazing. He said it was basically broken all weekend, and what it allowed him to do was it allowed him to basically just normal summon or have a normal summon that was an instant possibility for either a Dante play, which, Dante obviously is what Burning Abyss naturally want to go to. You can turn Dante into Lady Beatrice, so there's options there. Lady Beatrice can get the Dante Pilgrim if she dies, so obviously that just opens up a whole can of worms. But then Rescue Cat also gives you the ability to go into Naturia Beast if you pull Gallis out of your deck, and if you pull Elephant. And Naturia Beast, he said that he summoned it like 10 times in the tournament, and he said it was auto win almost every single time. In fact, he said that Savaris was used to kind of protect his copy of Naturia Beast, because he was like that, yeah, people would have the impermanences, and maybe your opponent might have something crazy like an Effect Veiler, and if they can't out your Naturia Beast, you think of the deck like Trickstars. There's no Trickstar Caribbean. Like, how exactly are they attacking over a Naturia Beast if all they can normal summon is like a Candina? You search a Lycoris, okay, well, you just, I guess, lose now, because the only real defensive card that like Trickstars run is like Scapegoat and Reincarnation. What is that gonna do to a Naturia Beast that's already on the field punching your face in? Another interesting thing is and this is a play that I didn't even know about. He said that if you have Phoenix Rhino Warrior plus any Burning Abyss monster, apparently that turns into Underclock Taker and a copy of Beatrice, as long as you don't mill your Seer to the graveyard when you actually summon your Dante. That's a really interesting play. And Underclock Taker is a card that, like, I think I saw a lot of ABC players kind of take it out of their deck when they originally added it in to kind of replace like a Decode Talker, just a quicker way to get to a down pointing arrow. But a lot of people have taken Underclock Taker out of the deck, but this card is super clutch in his build, because obviously he's making Underclock and Beatrice kind of just off a couple of cards. But if you throw in Underclock's effect to basically shrink one of your opponent's monsters, and then you throw down a copy of Blackluster Soldier, a lot of times that's how he OTK'd his opponent. He would have just those 3 monsters, and if he shrinks your monster, considering no one in this format is playing battle traps, like, what exactly are you doing to stop a 3000 attack BLS that's about to attack twice? And then you have what? Beatrice is 25 2,500. Yeah, you have 2,500 Lady B and then 1,000 with Underclock Taker. It's really interesting. You see some of the cards that he ran, and obviously, Burning Abyss have always been able to do little like increment amounts of burn damage. And I said in yesterday's video, I was like, okay, well, he has ways of being able to do burn damage in case he goes to end of match procedure, like Barbar. And Nightmare Shark is not burn damage, but it's essentially a way to attack your opponent directly. It's the same kind of cheese like ideology of not really having to fight them fair. But he said that like none of his games actually, he said that one game in the entire tournament went to time, and that kind of resonated with me when I watched the finals and I saw that he 2-0'd his opponent in like 8 minutes flat. And when he played in the top 4 and he played against Pendulums, I think he ended up 2-0'ing that guy in like 20 minutes. So he was winning his matches so ridiculously fast, and I think that another interesting thing about this deck is Burning Abyss, I feel like have always been kind of naturally strong against cards like Ghost Ogre and Droll and Lockbird, which a lot of people have kind of moved towards Droll and Lockbird instead of, cards like Effect. Well, some people play Effect Veiler, but Droll and Lockbird's really not that good against Burning Abyss. I mean, really, what are you searching in this deck? My assumption is that, like, Skarm is kind of like the only search that people really use. Even, I think Burning Abyss and really this build has kind of a good resistance to hand traps in general. Let's say that you activate, or he activates a copy of Light of Sekka, right? If you Ash Blossom this, you really haven't done much considering he can still use the effect from the graveyard and potentially fix his hand. So I'm really not sure that you've actually accomplished anything. Now, speaking of Gallis, well, I guess to bring up Gallis, it was obviously an excellent card, and it's interesting because it's obviously a combo card where he can use it from Rescue Cat, right? He gives himself the possibility of going into either a Dante or a Naturia Beast. Naturia Beast can be auto win against Pendulums. It can be auto win against, the Sky Striker deck, or really even a plain Jane version of Trickstars. But it's interesting that he was like, this card is not a Garnet, because if you just activate it from your hand, then you obviously get the special summon. And he was like, yeah, you can use this with Fiendish Rhino Warrior. That makes your Dante. If you have an Ash Blossom that's not live, you can make a Dante with that. Also, the potential of doing burn damage, because if you do happen to mill a BLS, or if you mill Savaris, I mean, that's 1,400, that's 1,600 damage. That might actually be enough damage to just win the duel, especially if he has a BLS on field and he's cut your monster in half with Underclock Taker. So you have Gallis as this monster that, obviously has like these one card plays with Rescue Cat, but it also is a potential burn card when his deck is already kind of suited to do a lot of burn damage. And I said it in yesterday's video, for those of you who didn't actually see that video, even if you have the super low chance of hitting your Light of Sekka on your copy of Gallis, it's really not that bad. Yes, it is a neg1, but again, Sekka or Light of Sekka can activate from the graveyard to potentially fix your hand. So there's almost no way that this card is actually like, there's almost no way that you mill a card with Gallis and it's like, oh my god, I just lost a duel. I mean, maybe if you mill like your one copy of Tour Guide, that can hurt, but outside of that, I really don't think that any of your mills are actually bad. And then of course you can activate all your Burning Abyss monsters when they're milled to the graveyard. I thought his side deck was really interesting too. This is kind of an old school strategy for Burning Abyss, siding in copies of Vanity's Fiend. I would imagine that's probably if you're going first against Goki. I mean, I don't think Goki like have any natural outs to this, and you can probably just again protect it with Savaris if people side in copies of like Infinite Impermanence, if they try to do something cheeky like that. You also have him siding actual traps. I'm pretty sure that caught everybody off guard. In fact, he actually alluded to that. He said almost no one saw it coming, because if I'm playing against an opponent who plays Light of Sekka, I'm pretty much assuming that they're not going to have any side or any spells and traps, obviously not in their main deck, but even in their side deck. In fact, he said that was the reason why he didn't run Evenly Match. He ran Spear Mode, because you can't run Evenly Match and run Light of Sekka. It just doesn't work, especially if you open with, both of them. Then obviously like one is dead because of the other card, and it's just not really, it's not a real good combination. Well, I guess they just really don't work. I mean, I guess you could activate Light of Sekka and then Evenly Match like during the battle phase, but then any other copies of like Light of Sekka would be just completely dead. But what he said is he would go first and he would basically side this in against like Sky Striker Trickstars, and he said that it just absolutely did work. If you had Beatrice on the field plus an Imperial Order, there was no way that they could essentially get over it. Same thing goes for Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think Anti-Spell Fragrance is not going to 100% shut them down, But if you're playing against these decks, especially if they have the, if they have the unfortunate circumstances where they're playing terraforming, because terraforming is absolutely destroyed by anti-spell because it takes you like 2 full turns to get your field spell activated. But I think anti-spell is just kind of the mindset of his deck pushes for damage so fast that 1 turn is really all he needs. If he's 2-0ing people in the finals in 8 minutes, then you having to set your cards, even if you can use them during your next turn, I mean, it's kind of what Kaito said in RV. Like, there is no next turn when he's just plowing you with all of his damage really quickly, especially if he hits BLS, which is, the potential 6,000 attack. Well, it won't be 6,000 attack, but I think you guys get where I'm going with this. So this was a very interesting deck, and I look at decks like this to actually make an appearance at the NAWCQ and at the World's Champion, or excuse me, at the European Championship, because I kind of feel like Thomas's performance has embodied or empowered a lot of people. I think a lot of people have gotten confidence. I think 100% that people are looking at Trick Stars and Sky Strikers and they're really thinking, hey, you can actually get over big monsters. Like, that's one of the Achilles heel of the deck, especially if you go first, you summon something like a Vanity's Fiend. What exactly, or maybe even like a Majesty's Fiend, what exactly are they going to do about that? Because they really don't have a lot of natural outs to those cards. A lot of times they have to rely on their Sky Striker monsters getting like 30 billion spells in the graveyard, and if you don't give them that time to set up, then you can just overwhelm them relatively easily. These decks really aren't playing real defensive cards. Like, they're running Scapegoat as like their only defense. Even the Pendulum deck doesn't run any trap cards. It doesn't really run any ways of actually defending itself. So if you put big monsters on the field, or if you can just kind of back them into a corner, they don't have any ways of defending themselves. So let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. I'm still just so shocked that this deck has so many crazy pieces, and you can definitely tell that this is somebody who was just, he said he was doing a whole lot of like kitchen Yu-Gi-Oh, where he would just like test things and think of crazy ideas and be like, all right, I'm gonna throw that in there and see how it works. But I definitely applaud him, and I hope that we see decks like this pop up over the next couple of weeks. Whatever you guys thought, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.